The Vegans es el nombre que es agresivo, pero se crea en una idea que va cambiando o mejorando con el tiempo y las generaciones. Y deseo ver el día que la palabra vegan sea desposeída de su carga y deje de existir, porque todas y todos llevaremos una conducta diferente hacia las demás especies y ya no habrá que nombrarla. Mientras tanto, estamos para cuestionarnos todo, a vegans y no vegans, nuestras acciones y el cómo afecta para bien o para mal a todas y todos. Y todo sabiendo no hay un vegano o vegana perfecta y que hay diferentes maneras de hacer activismo. Sin olvidar que el orgullo no ayuda a las demás especies. Solo es una pequeña masturbación para sentirse diferente y aunque la acción de dejar de explotar animales sigue siendo importante y relevante, su negación a escuchar las demás voces, procesos y formas frena el verdadero motivo que nos atañe a todos, todas y todes verdaderamente. Dejar de explotar a las demás especies. El motivo por el cual nos denominamos vegans. Mi nombre es Junio y cada semana estaremos entrevistando, entreoyendo y escuchando y preguntando a diferentes personas que ponen los cimientos para esa utopía de libertad. Hola, espero se encuentren muy bien. Hoy tenemos una entrevista diferente. Va a ser totalmente en inglés y de antemano les pido disculpas por mi inglés, que no es muy bueno. Lo entiendo, pero no lo hablo. Y por ello Claudia, B is for Vegana, me ayudará con parte de la conducción en esta entrevista hacia la doctora Leila Dehghan. Espero haberlo pronunciado bien. Deseo que puedan disfrutar de esta entrevista, se nutran de ella y me tengan paciencia. En el futuro subiré la traducción total de esta entrevista. Mi intención es que podamos escuchar a diferentes personas desde diferentes partes del mundo que se dedican a beneficiar a las demás especies, incluida la propia. En esta ocasión hablamos sobre cómo todas las luchas están conectadas, y cuando decimos liberación animal incluimos a la especie humana. Gracias por escuchar.
Right. So we are with Leila, born in Tehran, Iran, and raised in Vienna, Austria. Leila is a doctor turned plant-based nutritionist and social justice activist. Although Leila's journey to veganism started as an animal rescuer, she later discovered the power of a whole food plant-based diet and heal her migraines through diet. This experience led her to pursue a plant-based nutrition certificate at eCornell and a Master's of Science degree in Clinical and Public Health Nutrition from University College London. Navigating life as a vegan of color and an immigrant in Austria and the UK, she brings a unique awareness of the intersectionality of different social identities and injustices. Leila takes an anti-oppressive approach within the realms of animal rights and vegan activism and is the founder of PlantBased Health Justice, a nonprofit social justice charity dedicated to cultivating justice, equity, and compassion for all. Thank you, Leila, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Could you talk up to us about the how did you become vegan and how do you see all the struggles are connected?
Sure. Well, how did I become vegan? It's now almost 11 years that I have been vegan, and I was already vegetarian. And then I got. It's interesting. I never really liked animals, so I grew up not really liking animals much. But then my sister adopted. She didn't adopt. She bought 2 cats, and 2 little kittens, very cute. So I had to interact with them. And that was the first time, that I had to kind of live with 2 animals. And it is interesting because as a child, there are pictures of me with cats and dogs. I mean, the family had cats and dogs. But I always tried to avoid them. So anyway, when these 2 little kittens came to live with us, I started actually saying, oh, animals can be cute. Animals are actually very nice. So I started, on YouTube watching videos of animals. And then by accident, I watched a very short documentary about an animal rescue in Lebanon, Beirut. And then I learned about stray dogs that, some countries, there are dogs just roaming around and people can kill them. So it was really shocking for me, to discover that. I had no idea. So gradually I started getting into animal rescue because, yes, it was again, I don't know if you know it, in 2013 in Romania, they started shooting the stray dogs. There was an incident where a stray dog had killed a 4 or 5 year old child. So the government decided, all the stray dogs, they're going to kill them. So when I heard about it, I contacted some animal rescuers and I said, I want to go there. If you are going there, I come with you. So for a whole week, I went to Romania, visited 4 shelters, public shelters, and it was a completely new experience, being with all these stray dogs and very traumatized. So yes, and so I got into animal rescue, trying to rehome dogs, mainly dogs, not cats. And one of the fellow animal rescuers, she was vegan. So she asked me, so, you like animals and you're already vegetarian, why are you not going vegan? And I was like, yes, that is it. I'm vegetarian. Why should I go vegan? I'm not harming any animals. But then one day I watched a video and I learned the truth about dairy industry and egg industry. And once you know it, you cannot unknow it. So yes. I went vegan overnight. So that is how I went vegan. And, when I went vegan, I didn't have any idea about nutrition, about diet. All I knew was don't eat any animal products. That's all, No meat, no honey, no dairy, no eggs. But I didn't know that, I need to pay attention to my diet, what I eat. So I was, I think for the first 2 months, I was only eating like bread and peanut butter and jam and maybe some vegetables. So not really a good diet as such. But then gradually, I learned more. People were asking me questions. When you tell people you're vegan, they ask questions. And I was a personal trainer at the time. So people were like kind of, oh, how can you exercise while eating a vegan diet? So I had to learn about it, nutrition. And in a way, learning about nutrition helped myself because I had health problems. So learning about nutrition, I changed my own diet from a vegan junk food, kind of vegan diet to a whole food plant-based diet, to a healthy vegan diet. So I helped myself. Then I decided I want to learn, nutrition so that I can help more people. So yes, that's how, I became a vegan and a nutritionist. Now, you asked about plant-based, kind of oppressions and how they are connected. I am from Iran, and I grew up in Austria, which is quite a racist country. And even now, when you hear the news, how they are actually pro-genocide, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because it's a very... when we say racist, sometimes we just think about like kind of they are discriminating based on race. But, being racist, there is a mindset behind it, isn't it? And so when they have that mindset, then yes, the consequence is that they are going to actually be pro-genocide. Although Austria, like Germany, they have the past with the Nazis, they should have learned, they should know better. But when it is the same mindset, and they don't get it. So that's why they are going to be racist and pro-genocide. So growing up in Austria, I was exposed to a lot of racism. I was subjected to racism. Like, at university, I once during an exam, a professor actually, he really pointed his finger to my head and he said, how would you answer this question if somebody was pointing a gun to your head? So that happened, during an exam, oral exam at university. So that is the kind of attitude that you, encounter in Austria. So that really shaped how I viewed life and society. And that was the reason I actually moved to the UK, because I believe UK is less racist. I learned that they are also racist, but they don't show it. They are polite, they are very British about being racist. So they are very polite. But sometimes that is good, because if racism is really in your face all the time, you cannot breathe. You cannot, and when you're not breathing, when you're always in the survival mode, you cannot thrive. So coming to the UK, that gave me the chance to actually kind of have a breather and, focus on other things in life rather than fighting the racism all the time. And then when I became vegan, like many other vegans, you feel like, oh, I found my family, I found my tribe, I found my people. So I felt like I can relax now because now I have my own community. But then, as a nutritionist, I was working with I was involved with a few different organizations. You meet people and you realize that vegans, whether they are, focus on nutrition or animal rights, activities, they are still, they can still be racist. If they don't understand justice, if they don't understand oppression, and they don't take an anti-oppression approach, they are going to be oppressive, just like non-vegans. So it doesn't really matter. Just being vegan doesn't make you a better human being. And that was why I felt like there is a gap in the vegan movement. We have those vegans who talk about environment, climate change. Then we have those vegans who focus on nutrition, a healthy nutrition. And then we have those vegans who talk about, animal rights. Animals should be the center. But I wanted to kind of bring all of them together because I feel like if we want a better world, and that is what we all want, we want, peace, a peaceful world, we want a better world for everybody, then we need to take care of our environment. We need to take care of, fight for, help, fight the climate change. We need to create a better world for animals where they are actually not exploited. And we also need to take care of ourselves and other humans. It is part of it, So nutrition does play a role, but we also need to talk about, oppressions that are happening in our lives. I don't like to call it racism because oppression can take different forms. And racism is just one of them. So yes, nowadays, I'm sure you have heard it. We talk a lot about decolonizing. And I think that is what it is about. We need to kind of break free from what we have learned from the colonizers, get away from that mindset. So yes, that is how I founded the Plant-Based Health Justice. And my aim is to address all these injustices. And because to be honest, they are connected. So yes, I'm going to stop now. I talked too much.
Thank you.
Can I just say, well, I'm sorry you went through that. My partner is British, so I know what you mean. Like, and I kind of, it made me think about when you said about having a breather when you moved to the UK, and then you had basically headspace to tackle other causes. Do you think that maybe could be, I wonder if that could be a reason as to why people in the movement are silent? Like if their mindset is just too cluttered with veganism, do you think that could be a reason why not more people are speaking up?
People are asking this question all the time on social media. Why are other vegans not talking about it? Especially when we say other vegans. Obviously we are talking about it. We are talking about all these big, large vegan organizations who have been silent. So why are they not talking? Is it money? Is it funding? Or is it because they don't want to upset their Jewish colleagues? And we have been exploring these questions a lot. I host a fortnightly discussion groups. And each time we meet, every 2 weeks, the question pops up, why is everybody else quiet? And we cannot come up with an answer. To be honest, I think it does have something to do with funding, because we have heard, I don't know, that there are just like 2 or 3 people who give grants. Kind of the top people are just a couple of people who give grants to other organizations. And so if I don't know who they are, but if they are like kind of, for whatever reason, they don't want to talk about, Palestine, then obviously everybody else who wants that money, who wants those grants, is quiet. And maybe I'm lucky because I never got a grant, so that gives you the freedom. No, it does. I mean, I'm just wondering, what would I have done if my organization was funded by somebody else? And I don't know, maybe they have received an email from somebody telling them, you need to keep quiet. I don't know. But yes, it is actually almost disgusting, to be honest, that all these large vegan organizations who claim to be ethical, who claim to be anti-oppressive, because after the Black Lives Matter movement started, all these vegan organizations, whether they were animal rights or nutrition or climate change, they all came and they showed solidarity with BLM, right? And I'm a nutritionist, and in the nutrition space, they started talking about how people of color are more affected by all these diseases. So they actually started talking about all these issues, and they invited, doctors of color or, nutritionists of colors to come and talk about it. So they kind of know that if you want to talk about animal rights, if you want to talk about better health, you need to discuss these social issues. They know that. So they cannot say that they are just focused on animals. They cannot really claim that, because we saw a few years ago how they realized they have to talk about these social issues. But when it comes to taking this a bit further about Palestine, for example, and that is what we are discussing mainly right now, I think it is, you have heard it, Palestine is the litmus test for all of us. For, if we don't understand that we have to speak up for Palestine, then we are not getting oppression. And I think, maybe they lack courage. I don't know. I mean, it's a very good question, but for the last 5 months, we have been asking this question and nobody has come up with an answer. And it would be interesting to ask those people, why are you not talking about it? And I know most people would say, oh, yes, it is because we are just focused on animals, or we are just focused on nutrition. And something I saw on social media is that people say, when you start talking about Palestine, you're putting animals on, kind of on the back burner again. But I don't believe that. Firstly, there are animals in Gaza. I'm sure you have seen all these horrifying pictures of animals suffering, cats and dogs and donkeys. They are starving. They are starving too. So firstly, yes, if you care about animals, you should also care about the animals in Gaza. You cannot just say, I only care about the animals, I don't know, in the US or in the UK. So, yes, and I think we humans, we have the capacity to speak up against a few oppressions, not just one. We are more than we like to believe. So, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer, really.
No, that's okay. Neither do I.
I would like to ask you both. We are talking about our moral duty, I think, about talking these things that happened in the world. But why do we have to talk? Why do we must? Because one part of me says that I don't have to do anything to prove anything to anyone. But why in these themes, I think the word is themes, why do we need to, without feeling we are forcing others to talk about?
I think I would again go back to the fact that we are all connected. You know, it is almost like we are sitting in a boat, and I say, where I am sitting, I'm making a hole. It's not your business. It is where I am sitting in the boat. If water comes, into the boat, it is where I am sitting. Not your business, but it is your business. Because when water comes into the boat, you are going to sink with me. And I think that is how we need to look at all these issues. And that is what we have recognized when it comes to climate, that we cannot say, oh, yes, I don't know, there is flooding in Pakistan. It has nothing to do with us. Me sitting in the UK, why should I care about the flooding in Pakistan? But, what I do, what we do in the UK, in the US, what we eat, all of that has contributed. All of that has come together to cause that flooding in Pakistan. And, the Native Americans believe that whatever you do, you need to think of 7 generations ahead. So you don't just do it for yourself. You are actually thinking of the children of your children, and then their children. So 7 generations. And again, if we think about the colonial mindset, is an individualistic mindset. It's about me, 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 me. What helps me, that mindset, yes, why should I care about anybody else? I just want to go and have fun, go and eat my vegan food, go on to all these vegan restaurants. Oh, McDonald's has a new vegan burger. Why not go and try that? If that is that mindset. But the decolonized mindset, I don't like to call it the indigenous mindset, but it is the indigenous mindset, is more community-based. We actually know that, what happens to somebody else, somewhere else, affects me as well, because we're all connected. So whether I'm sitting here in the UK or you're sitting in Mexico or Germany, we all need to care for each other. So it's not just Palestine. And that is what we are seeing right now. People are waking up. Suddenly we are hearing about what is happening in Sudan and Congo. And interestingly, when we start hearing all of that, suddenly we hear that Israel plays actually a role in all those other genocides as well. So the same people who are pro-genocide, the same people who are facilitating this genocide, are the same people who are profiting from animal agriculture, the same people who are benefiting if, in the UK, for example, a lot of people right now don't have access to food. So it is, that's why they say the root cause is the same. Now, it is easy for those privileged, which is probably just 1 or 2% of the whole global population. It's easy for them to say, why should I care? Because, when you have privilege, you wouldn't want to give it up. And I think, we hear all these, we always hear just a few names popping up when we are talking about these issues, a few billionaires. It's always the same people because they have the money and they just, it is this individualistic idea that we should just look after ourselves and bigger houses, I don't know, more cars, more food. And yes, so again, that is why I really believe that even when it comes to veganism and animal rights activism, we need to decolonize veganism. We need to move away from this colonial mindset, from this capitalistic, individualistic, racist mindset, which we see right now in the vegan movement. And this is only possible when we take an anti-oppressive approach. So we are against all oppressions. It doesn't matter who the victims are, where it happens. That is the only way we can actually create long-lasting change.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I just agree with basically everything you said. For me I hear a lot. Since I joined the vegan movement, I've always heard a lot this thing of like, no one is free until we're all free. And I feel like this would have been the time to prove that, the time to show that it's just not something nice that you're saying, like something to make your cause look very heroic or anything. Also, you hear all the time how it's all connected, and like the intersectional approach to veganism, in theory, I think has there's a few detractors, but not a lot of people are against it outright. So it just doesn't make sense to me that it's not getting more traction. I heard, Leila, I watched one of your conversations of that group you host, and someone was saying something that even for the sake of getting more traction for veganism, you would think that you would work together with other causes to make it grow more, because it's not like we're a very big movement anyway. And so yeah, and for me, it's also a matter of just common sense. I hear, since it all kind of, obviously it didn't start in October, but since it all got a lot of exposure, I here and there see people asking, like, well, if you wonder what would you have done during the Jewish Holocaust, you're doing it now. And so to me, it's also a matter of basic principles. So yeah.
Yeah. And it is interesting, you mentioned that a lot of these quotes, like, what you would have done during, slavery or Jewish Holocaust, we are, as vegans, we use that to talk about animal agriculture, don't we? But when it comes to Palestine, suddenly it's like kind of, we forget about it. So you cannot, the same arguments we are using for, fighting for animals, we suddenly forget about it when it comes to Palestine. And I think, vegans usually think they have morally, they are superior to non-vegans. And now, actually, I think what is happening with this silence, because there will be a ceasefire at some point, and when everything goes back to normal as much as it can go, all these social justice activists will come, all these non-vegans. Next time, a vegan is going to talk about veganism, all these non-vegans are going to ask them, where were you? What did you do when Palestine was being starved and bombed? And I think it is actually a blow to our movement. Yes. I think, because we are not living up to what we have been preaching.
Yeah. Another thing that I just remember when you said that is, I don't know if you both have heard, I'm sure you have, sometimes people trying to show the plight of animals, of farmed animals, they compare it to the Holocaust, and how a lot of, there's been that discussion of, well, that's in poor taste. You don't really want to, there's no need to compare that to what animals go through, that it's terrible on its own. And there's been this, I've seen people kind of ask not to go there, not to use that comparison because it's disrespectful, and to, just human genocide, it's its own thing, or Holocaust, it's its own thing. And then when one actually is happening, they still don't say anything. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I just want to add something else. We vegans keep talking about compassion. And how can you have compassion? I don't know. I'll have compassion at 2:00, but at 3:00, I'm not going to be compassionate. It doesn't work like that. Either you have compassion or you don't. There's not a switch. You can turn it on and off. But apparently there is at the moment. So
I would like to ask you this thing about we don't have to, on the other side, judge the people, blame them because they are not talking. So how do we have to get close to them, but without without making them feeling worst. Maybe that's the word. I don't know, because there are so many things everyone is getting through. But how do we have to approach them without they feel we are attacking them, to talk about all the repressions?
The vegans who have been silent now, or in general?
Principally vegans.
Well, after 5 months, to be honest, and after all these images that we have seen, I don't know if you have seen that image of the child who starved and looks like a skeleton. And I don't know, there were so many horrible images, like that father carrying the remains of his child, in plastic bags, that child, hanging like as if she's hanging from a coat hanger. So after all of these, to be honest, I'm not sure how we can talk to someone without, there is, to be honest, how can we forget and forgive those people who were quiet? And I think it's not about us going to talk to them now, because they have been seeing all of that. The evidence was there. Nobody can claim that they did not know. During the Nazi regime, I grew up in Austria, so we read a lot about, a lot of books about, that time. But people didn't know. Some people really didn't know. All of us had a mobile phone in our hands where we could see it. That is the access we have, 24 hours a day. So nobody can claim that they didn't know. So I think actually it's up to them to come and make it up to us, make it up to Palestine, not just to us, because I don't know. I'm just thinking, how would we feel if, I'm Muslim, I'm from the Middle East. So for me, Palestinians are my brothers and sisters. That's how I see them. So if, I'm just thinking, they need to come up with a very good apology, not just excuse, oh, sorry, I didn't know it or whatever. They need to apologize, proper apology. And obviously, and yes, they need to come and do some grand gesture. So how can we talk to them to make them change their minds? I think they have already made up their minds. So it's not like we can bring them to change their minds. All we can do is hope that they actually wake up and say, I am really sorry, because that is what we need to hear from them. And I don't know how it is going to be moving forward to work with all these people, to be honest. I don't know. Again, that is a discussion we have had, I have already unfollowed a lot of people. If you want to not talk to anybody who has been silent, then there would be a very tiny group of us left. So we will continue working with each other, but this conversation will come up. And I think I hope that those people who have been silent, that they can actually be humble to admit that they were wrong. Because there's no other excuse.
Yeah. I think I personally don't approach many people who are silent about it, purely because I don't really see a point. I like you said, at this point, no one, if you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. And I don't really know what me approaching someone individually who's been, even if they don't want to, they've been exposed to all this horrible imagery that you've been saying. I don't really know that it would be, I don't know about you, but my energy gets depleted ever more with every day that goes by, and things not only don't stop, but they get worse. So I don't really, for me personally, I don't think it's a good use of my energy, because I don't have much. But also, yeah, I feel like part of me wants to be compassionate and be like, I mean, I also wouldn't, for that reason, I wouldn't shame anyone into like, why aren't you, at this point, like I don't feel like it'd be a good use of time or resources of anything to shame people and to, why aren't you doing this? And I demand an apology. And because for one, we're not even the ones affected by this. Of course, it's affecting us emotionally, but we're not the ones experiencing it. So I feel like, and also there's so few of us talking about it that I feel like it would be even more alienating to shame someone into like, why aren't you talking about this? But I get it. It is disappointing. It is like maybe the movement that you thought you knew isn't quite what it is. But yeah, it's just very difficult. I feel like, to me, anytime that I see sort of, because I have seen the odd couple of people posting something, like speaking up a little bit, and you can tell that they maybe are afraid, because a lot of these people are acquaintances or friends of mine who work in organizations and yeah, I know that it can be complicated. I still, I feel like people are entitled to their emotions. Like it is something that can be very frustrating and disappointing. But I would also, I'm not saying I have actually put it in practice, but I would like to think that if someone that had been silent does come forward, I think my approach to that would just be to welcome them, to just be appreciative of the fact that they're waking up, that they're saying something. But yeah, it is very complicated. I mean, I have seen like what you've said, and I've seen a lot of people go through the same. I have as well, of you kind of in sort of a grief process, because you're losing people that maybe you thought were aligned with you on values, and to realize that they're not, that can be sad, and it can be hurtful. So yeah, it's wild to me just how that just adds to this very big problem, and then all these hurtful consequences come from that are not even directly related to the genocide. It's very sad.
That's true. But, after 5 months, anybody who comes and asks for a ceasefire now and talks about it, I think they are just trying to jump on the bandwagon, and because they want to say, oh, look, I said something, I wasn't silent. So I think I do make a difference between this. I distinguish between people who were speaking up from day one and those who just gradually joined. Because I have been following a few vegans who are Zionists just to see, what nonsense they are saying, and they have gone quiet. So if they go quiet, it shows that they know that the tide is changing. So they also don't want to lose followers. So it's not just those who have been silent and support Palestine. Also those who are supporting Israel, they don't want to lose followers. And that's, again, it shows me that, both of them, whether they support Palestine and they have been quiet, or they support Israel, they are quiet. It just shows that for them, it's not about principles. It's more like kind of, money, how much fame and celebrity status. So, and again, I think if we are talking about long-lasting change, then we need courage. We need people to speak up. We need people to actually, and again, we all make mistakes. That's fine, but we need to be able to admit it, and then move on. But after 5 months, I think anybody who comes, Kamala Harris just asked for a ceasefire. Come on. Okay, so she said what did she say? Immediate ceasefire for at least 6 weeks. But at this stage, anybody who says ceasefire doesn't really mean anything. And but like you said, I don't usually engage with people because it's a waste of my energy. But sometimes I do respond. But when they respond back to me, I don't read it anymore because I know they're gonna say something which is hurtful, and I just don't have the energy and the mental. I just need my energy for something else. And if after 5 months people haven't changed their mind, they're still supporting Israel, there's nothing I can say. Honestly, there's absolutely nothing I can say or show them so that they change their minds. After 5 months, with everything that we have seen, I think people have made up their minds by now.
Talking about this, how do you take care about your mental health? I hope that's the correct word.
Oh, mental health. I think, yes, although I'm talking about now a human rights cause, I'm all about animals. For me, animals are really the center of my activism and also my job. Everything I do it for animals. So sometimes just reminding myself of the reason why I am doing what I am doing, that helps me. And although, when you are working to make the situation better for animals, and it is a frustrating job, very frustrating, but still, yes, just I think it's important to know why we are doing what we are doing, what we are fighting for. So that helps me, and also my own animals. So I have dogs and cats, so that helps me spending time with them, and I exercise a lot. So yes, it just is kind of getting rid of the anger, of the rage, and I think exercise helps me to do that, and it helps me to stay sane. And sometimes, just writing a very responding to someone who is nasty, just answering them can feel therapeutic. I gave you a piece of my mind. So that can sometimes help. So I do that sometimes, I must say. So yeah, that is what I do.
I feel like I get it. I get how that be cathartic. I don't feel like it has quite the same effect for me. I feel like because I see this discussions and I get really anxious, and I feel like the movement is stressful in its own, like, because there's all sorts of things. Sometimes you're gonna run into issues with egos or just people being oppressive in the movement in itself. So yeah, I feel like adding that it wouldn't be my choice of self-care. The question, to be honest, it's not a time where I can say my mental health is or my emotional health is thriving. It's actually been, it's a very weird time. It has been for months, and I actually am, if anything, I'm just in the search for things that might help. I think exercise is something that I certainly don't do enough, and I might try your approach. And companion animals, my dog and just my partner, my safe space is kind of my go-to for it, but it's so hard. I feel like it is sad how I feel like people who are speaking up about it are inevitably going to reel from it. I've seen like sometimes reels on Instagram or anything of like, well, check on your friends who are speaking about Palestine because we're not okay, and it is not about us, but it is true. I mean, certainly I'm not okay.
Yeah, I think anybody who's okay doing a genocide, there's something wrong with them, to be honest. So I think lowering our threshold helps, just knowing that, we are not going to be okay. And I think that is going to continue for a while. Even once it is over, once there is a ceasefire, we will hear more stories. And, a lot of people are actually under the rubbles. So it will carry on. So this situation is going to carry on for a long time. But I think none of us is okay. But at the same time, we shouldn't make it normalize it. We shouldn't normalize it. We shouldn't get used to this kind of feeling of all these different strange feelings. We shouldn't be okay with that. So yes, it is. It's a horrible time. I didn't think I would see anything like that in my lifetime, to be honest.
Yeah, I wish we hadn't. Wish the world had learned from anything that's happened before.
I have so many questions, but I would like to, Claudia, ask some of them, if you want.
Sure. So you already asked about mental health. How about best and worst things that you see from humanity today?
Ooh. I think the worst is what we are seeing, what the Israelis are doing, and especially I'm sure you have heard it, that they have these like kind of picnics where they sit and eat popcorn while Gaza is being bombed. I think that is, I don't know. I mean, I don't even, sometimes I feel like I'm speechless because I just don't know what else can I say. I need new vocabulary to describe these atrocities, not enough, this cruelty, this kind of inhumanity. And there's all these soldiers going to these houses and making fun of, their lifestyles, and just beyond me, how anybody can do that. Somebody said it is soul loss. It's more than soul loss, I don't know. So that is, I think we are seeing the worst of humanity at the moment. So there is no doubt about that. What gives me hope, the good thing, I think there are sometimes we forget that, there are acts of goodness. And even now, during this genocide, we have seen videos from Gaza coming where they don't have water themselves, but they share whatever water they have with animals, for example. Or a young child, sharing their food with the animals. So I think, at the same time, we see all these moments, these glimmers of actually humanity, especially in a situation where we would understand it if they wouldn't do it. Right? We would understand if they say, you know what, I have only one bottle of water, I'm going to drink it for myself and give it to my family, or I only have this bit of rice, that's all for me, because I don't know if I'm going to have food tomorrow. But despite all of that, they share it with the animals. And I think that is actually, it shows that we are more capable than we think we are. We can be a lot nicer. And in a way, so you mentioned egos earlier, that people have all their egos. I think it's also sometimes a lot of us in the West, we get so comfortable with these cozy lives. Everything we want something, we go to the shop next door and get it. We have it so easy, and that makes us kind of comfortable and lazy. And we want to carry on having that lifestyle, that level of kind of luxury or comfort. And I think that is also one of the reasons why people are silent, because they don't want to lose what they have. Whereas when you have already lost everything, all you have left is your humanity. And actually, that is when your humanity really shines and comes out. So, it is strange, but the place where we are seeing the worst of humanity at the moment is also the place where we are seeing the best of humanity. And I think, we can learn a lot from it, and we should, because we need to change. Each of us, we need to change. We need to change ourselves if we want to create a long-lasting change, around us and in the environment, in the world.
Yeah. You've said another question. I'm just want to make sure that we have time.
Yes, I still have time. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Another question was, in your experience, like in your trajectory of people you've worked with and projects you've taken on, what forms of activism do you find that work best for you?
I believe in education. I believe that we need to educate ourselves, because there is a lack of real understanding of some of these issues, like oppression. We all say oppression, but some of these words, they have lost their meaning. It's like love. Love has been so abused and misused that, we don't even know what is love. And so I think the same can be said about justice, oppression, exploitation, and racism, and all of that. We say these words, but we don't really understand what they mean, and we don't recognize them when they show up. Sometimes they show up in small ways in our own lives, and we don't recognize them, and in our own actions as well. So that's why I believe in education. I really believe that we need to read books, we need to learn more, and then teach, share with each other. And the more we know, the better it is. So for me, the best form of activism is education, but we need to do it with kindness. I really truly believe that our language should be a language of compassion. Some vegans say, to non-vegans, oh yes, you are eating this animal product, your artery is going to clog up and you're going to die. But that you're not going to get anybody to change when you talk like that. You cannot say to somebody, oh, you are, I don't know, you suck, and then now come and go vegan. No, it doesn't work like that. So I really believe education, but do it with compassion and non-judgment. And I know we all want to help animals. We all want everybody to go vegan, but we also need to have a strategy rather than just, saying go vegan. That doesn't help. We need to understand where the other person is. And it's not easy, and all of us need to continue learning. So I think another mistake is that when we assume that we have learned everything, now we can go out and carry on. We need to carry on learning while we are being, activists and doing outreach or whatever. So yes.
I have one question about the when we say, this is more philosophical, but when we say animal liberation, for you, what is an animal?
I would say we are all animals. Human animals, non-human animals, but we have forgotten about it. So that's why we make this distinguishment, and also that's why there's always this discussion that if somebody calls you, for example, I don't know, a monkey or dog or, a pig, even if somebody uses an animal to offend you, you shouldn't be insulted because you're an animal. But at the same time, we know that that is not why they are using it. So it gets complex. But I believe we are all animals. And yes, that is it. And when we say liberation, it should include all animals, as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it is indisputable that we're all animals. I guess it just reminds me of something we were saying at the start of whether all these things that we hear all the time are true, or it's just something you say, something to sound nice. And I feel like that, that we are all animals is kind of one of those as well, because I get the feeling that in this topic that we've been discussing of Palestine, like, if it kind of makes me think that if people really think, if vegans really did think that we are all animals, then to me it would make sense that surely they'd be speaking up about it, because they would see it as equally pressing as talking about veganism, because it's suffering and it's connected to everything. And so yeah, to me it's that it's one and the same.
I have so many questions, but Claudia, do you have more questions?
No, go ahead.
This is a total change of the topic we are talking, but I'm a fanatic of the dreams of the oniric world, so I would like to you to tell us one dream that you had while you were sleeping that changed your view in the awaking life, or maybe not, but something that there is a dream that catches you, and I don't know, a dream you remember.
That's a difficult one. I do. I'm like you. I do believe in dreams. I do actually try to remember my dreams, because I believe there's a message, and I have had a lot of dreams where I dreamt of something that was going to happen, and it happened. So it's a predictive dream. So I had that. But all I can say is that since October, all my dreams have been actually me being persecuted, me being kind of chased. So every night, I wake up in the morning, I'm tired because I have been actually chased. And I know it is because of what I see, in the news, and the feelings that I have. I should also mention, I live in a predominantly Jewish area here in the UK, in London. So each time, if I'm wearing just this keffiyeh, and this is like an orange keffiyeh, so not the black and white. Just today I was out, and people look at me like kind of, what are you wearing? Like kind of, So it is a very Jewish area, and I think it's also very conservative, so Tory voting area. So very like kind of, probably Zionist, I must say. And so I think since October, I am more aware of the area I'm living in, and that shows up in my dreams, that I feel unsafe. I'm also Muslim, so I think in general I feel really unsafe at the moment in the world. And a lot of Jewish people talk about how they feel unsafe, and nobody actually talks about how Muslims feel unsafe. Because we have been targeted. Even before all of that started, we have always been targeted. I have a name which is very Muslim, and I look very like kind of, my hair is dark and all that, and I have an accent. So it just, so I think, anyway, going back to dreams, I think in the last 4 or 5 months, all my dreams have been just showing me how I feel, that I feel actually unsafe. I don't feel safe in the world anymore. I feel like, people are attacking me, chasing me, and it is because of what is really happening. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes. Also, I would like to both of you.
You're muted.
Sorry?
You're muted.
I think. Thank you. I would like to ask both of you, what message could you give us, for us as men, to change our violent mind, because there is a problem here in Mexico, but I think that's a world problem, maybe. So what message could you give us, even as vegans, as male vegans? Yes.
That's a difficult one, because I think the problem is, and I see that again in Palestine at the moment as well, the mentality is that men are usually more violent, more aggressive, and women need to be protected. But that mentality has made it easier for Israel to bomb Palestine right now, isn't it? Because everybody is terrorist. So I think it is just a general global problem that, we always assume that male are, it is kind of indoctrinated to them, like kind of you are aggressive, and if you want to be a man, you're manly, you have to eat meat, you have to be, behaving a certain way. And so obviously I'm not a man, so I don't know how to get free from that. But I know as the women, what we can do is that we don't fall for those stereotypes. But it's also about, when you are a woman, there are stereotypes about us as well. You have to behave a certain way. You have to, I have been told a lot of times I'm not feminine enough. Good. I don't want to be feminine. So it is, I think, as women, we have the responsibility not to fall for those things. And that makes it easier for men to be themselves. So, but it is, again, it's a human thing. The more I am me, the more I allow myself to be who I want to be, free from these societal kind of stereotypes and judgments, the more I allow someone else to be who they are. So I know it sounds very cliche, but I think it does. We just help each other by not falling for these lies that we have been told. And it's interesting because, again, that is actually what we don't realize is this is a colonial mentality, which shows that, men, everything which is like kind of masculine is admired. Everything which is feminine is like indigenous, we should move away from it. And that's why we see a lot of female leaders in the West. They behave like men. There's nothing feminine about them. There is nothing like kind of, so yeah, I think it is just about changing our mentality again. And we all have to do that in whatever, gender we feel comfortable with. So, yeah.
I feel like male vegans have already taken a very significant step in, I guess, exposing themselves to whatever shaming or mocking there can be from, not eating meat, not eating animals is not masculine. So I would hope that if they already took that important step, that they would just get more make efforts to get more comfortable in what you were saying, Leila, of just knocking down stereotypes. Like, because ultimately, I personally don't believe that men. I don't know. It's a tricky one. I wouldn't say they're inherently violent as just all men. Of course, there's that discussion of very, very true, very real male oppression and why feminism is necessary as well and all of that. But I feel like just the need to knock down those stereotypes and open up for, I do feel like men grow up with this expectations of being tough, of not opening up, and I feel like I would just hope that I feel like that's why it's so necessary, that sense of community, because if it exists and if it's a real community, if it's supportive, then I feel like men and women alike would open up enough to show themselves as vulnerable, to speak about the pressure that they can feel to fulfill certain gender roles and things like that. So I think, just as with a lot of things, the answer is probably in just community.
Yeah, I would like actually to ask you, Honya, when you say violent, we talk about physical violence, because I think some societies there is like kind of physical violence, and men not expected, but they do that to compensate for something else, and it is accepted or tolerated. And I think, again, what I was talking about was more probably UK based, So I think I wouldn't necessarily even say what I was saying was more like about what the men should be doing in Iran, because, the mentality is different. Society expects different things. And so I think one of the problems I have with feminism is, for example, that it is very specific. What we see is, to the West. You cannot take it and, transport it to Iran and other countries. Each country has to have their own kind of, movement, because the history is different and the traditions are different, culture is different. So I'm not sure what you meant with violence. Was it physical violence? And also, when we talk about vegans, yes, they have made that step to say they don't want to eat animal products anymore to be manly. But at the same time, what we see in the vegan movement is that all the kind of top people are men. So they haven't really given up any of those male privileges, have they? Whereas we know that actually the majority of vegans are female women. But when it comes to kind of, all these top positions, everybody is, the majority are men. So I'm just thinking yes, we haven't really, they haven't changed their mentality. They actually just, they have replaced it maybe with something else, but they haven't really changed that mentality that men are like in power position, because violence is also a form of showing that you are in power, isn't it? You are in control. So, and they haven't changed that. Sorry to say that. So I hope I'm not offending anybody.
I think that is true, because even here in Mexico, being a man is to show that you have to, the word, you have it with the heart. You can with the hard things, and you don't have to show that you cry even when you see an animal being killed or murdered. I don't know the difference between one and the other. Seeing people being bombed, it's, for me, it makes me cry, and sometimes it's like flag of you are weak as a man, and it's some kind like I don't have to show this in front of the people because they are not going to believe in me as a man. I don't know as women, but as men, that is maybe it's only in my mind, but I grew up with this kind of bullying between old men till now. So sometimes I play football, soccer. So in this kind of meetings or reunions, there is always bullying, showing who is the one that fucks the other, always. So even when you say you don't eat meat, for example, they say many things I don't want to say right now, but there are offensives, even if it is a joke. I don't know what is when you say, because sometimes my mind says, okay, they are bullying you, then you bully them. No, let's see who is going to support. Who is going to
win?
What is the word?
Who's going to be winning? Who's going to be a kind of better at bullying?
Who can take more?
Yes, take more. That is the not winning, because sometimes my intention is to okay, you are telling me I have the power to answer, and you have to carry with that. But my intention is to question the things you are telling me. If you do not support the oppression of ideas, maybe it's like you are telling something, and someone is going to come to make that thing to you. You have to be to take it. I don't know the word, but you have to. I'm sorry, I don't
Say it in
know the word.
Spanish.
Yeah, like take it like amen, right?
Yes,
Like,
but maybe not like a man. It's because like some people that say, no, I like the meat, and no one can tell me what to do. Okay, but when someone is oppressing you, you don't have to complain. That's the word. Complain because you are doing that thing to another. But if you do, what is your position in this in these terms? In these terms, so why do we have to fall in that circle of always violence for me and for the others? So maybe I'm just twisting my mind right now. But
No, but that is, I mean, the society, isn't it? If the society is built on that, it is very difficult to break free from that.
yes.
And you want to do it, but if the people around you are not ready to do it, then you're going to be alone, right? So it's always the tension between, so what do I do? And you want to be with them. So yeah, I think it is difficult. It is. So yeah. And you're right. If you don't kind of play along, you lose your credibility as a man, isn't it? So people, yeah.
And also it's because in the vegan movement here in Mexico, I think there is in the whole world, but here in Mexico, there sometimes the thing that there is what is the word, objectification of the woman, and I don't know the word acoso in English.
harassment.
Yes. So there are many problems because maybe our culture, but I think we can change. And also, as you say, there is different forms of in every place of the world. But I think human rights are worldly, yes, from the world to everyone, to each one. It doesn't matter if you are in the Middle East or Asia or Mexico. I think there are some kind of rights we have to keep and to arise. Okay,
Yeah.
forgive my.
And I think also with veganism, the problem is because I don't know about Mexico, but I know, for example, in Iran, it is associated with being westernized, being white. So when somebody says I'm vegan, they automatically assume you are westernized. So there is this kind of resistance because they don't want to be westernized, some people. So I think there is a different layer added to veganism in countries like our countries, which people in the UK or in the US don't have. So yeah, I think that also plays a role. And yeah, it is. I think we have a lot of work to do, to be honest. So yes.
Yeah, I think that happens here too. Like sometimes, and I do think it's not helped by the fact that a lot of activism is based on just plant-based food and plant-based options, because that ultimately just feeds into capitalism. But I do hear sometimes from like racialized, like impoverished people who, are in like precarious conditions. They get this message of like, oh, look at this vegan food, and be a better person by eating it, and they rightfully reject it because it's like, well, they don't. I feel like that really harms the cause because it's I mean, it's not so much to do with what Hun was saying about just men, but I do feel like I don't feel like it conveys the right message. And it's just alienating of like, well, you are privileged. You are, this white Mexican who just is telling me not to eat animals when they have worries like rent and income and just racial justice issues, like all these things. So I feel like that. I mean, I guess that for men, I think it affects everyone, but I think especially it must make it even more difficult for certain men to empathize with like the vegan cause, because they'll just see it as foolish when it's presented a certain way. And I honestly can understand it, because it's not, I don't think it's activism based on the right foundations.
No, I think one mistake a lot of people make is that we take what the West is doing, the activism that the West is doing in their countries, and we take it and transport it to other countries, and it doesn't work like that. I had a discussion once with people from Pakistan, India, and China, and we were all saying the same things. In our countries, we need a different kind of activism. We cannot go with the same things that people do in the UK and US. And as you were saying, Claudia, if we do that, we are harming the movement more, actually. So, and that is the problem, because we don't really have any people coming from our backgrounds who speak up and talk about veganism. All these people who speak about veganism are these white vegans. So we need actually new people talking about veganism from our countries and in our languages. Why should everything be in English? Not everybody speaks. I don't know about Mexico, but in Iran, a very small percentage of people speak English. So no, we need to have material in our own language. So we who are not from the West, we have a lot of work to do, because our path to veganism is different, and we shouldn't really imitate and copy them. We do more harm. Yeah.
Thank you for your patience and for the answers. Two more questions. There's something also philosophical, but also active question. There is a question that always make to vegans, that if you are in an island with a pig, etc., and so forth. So this is a question that really happens. When you see a spider and a fly in a spider web, who do you help? Do you leave the spider eat the fly, or do you help the fly, and why? And maybe you can see the fly as some other person or animal, and the spider also as some other being, and the spider web as some other situation. What is your answer? I would like to hear.
Luckily, I'm not in that position, but I can say one of my cats likes to hunt. So whenever she's out, she likes to kind of hunt mice. And whenever I see that, I rush to save the mouse, and we usually take the mouse to the vet. But sometimes, it's the shock, and they, sadly die anyway. So that is the closest I have come to the scenario you are describing. I don't know, because I think it is so hypothetical, isn't it? When I am in that position, in that situation, there are so many other factors that play a role. With the spider and fly, I have never seen a fly actually in the spider web. I have never seen it. So how comes I'm seeing it suddenly? What makes me see it? And what is the situation? Am I going to... Because sometimes actually when you're trying to save the fly, you may actually be harming the spider. So you may be saving one and killing the other one. So that, I assume, because they're both small, so the spider, I don't know where the spider is. If I'm trying to save the fly, maybe I damage the web, and then that kills the spider? I don't know enough. So I think it's a very hypothetical question, and it really depends on what is happening. But I don't know. Claudia, do you have an answer?
No, I recently had this conversation with him, and I feel like he just asked this question to mess with your mind. Like, it's just, so no, pretty much on the same boat as you. I feel like seeing it in reality would be dependent of a million factors, and I couldn't possibly say what I would do on each occasion.
But the answer about the cat and the mouse, I think that's the closest. Yes. Would you like to tell us a last message from the people that is going to listen? I hope this in the future, I will translate this for the Mexican, Spanish talkers, audience.
Yeah.
Will listen, but in YouTube we'll have subtitles. So, but a last message do you want to share with us and your social media?
All right. Well, I think if I wanted to give one message to people of the global majority, or people of the global south, people from our background, is they need to learn about their history. The more we learn about our own history, the more we understand other people, other oppressed people, and the easier it gets for us to actually break free from that oppression. And if Mexicans would know more about how they got where they are, what happened in their history, who governed them and all of that, they will understand what is happening in Palestine much better. So I think, just learn about your own history. It's really useful, and you'll be amazed. There's so much we don't know. So that would be, that is a message I would love to share with people. Go and learn about your own history. And you'll be surprised at how plant-based your ancestors were, but you also understand all the different oppressions and why you are who you are, and why your country is in the states that they are. So yes, so that would be it. And outside my social media, it is just plant-based health justice. I think it's just one word, or maybe plant-based _health _justice. I think that is it. Yes. So that is, and I also have a website, plantbasedhealthjustice.org, where they can find my, other links and everything else. And I really like to actually have more material in other languages. So that is something I have shared on my website as well. So having vegan food, from Spanish people, or even better, from Mexican people, Mexican chefs in Spanish. I think that is what we need. Each country needs their own kind of vegan guide in their own language and adapted to their own culture. We need to move away from white veganism. We need to find our own path to liberation, and liberation for all.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask Claudia if she has something else to tell, to ask.
No, I mean, just in terms of that last message, I would just say, basically everything that Leila said resonates with me. I would just add, urging people to be kind to each other, because I feel like we've been saying, it's very weird times. It's a kind of it's a depressing time to be in the world, and I feel like that thing of you don't really know what the other one is going through applies especially now. I think that people who are speaking up about specifically Palestine, which is what we discussed today, are taking a toll from it emotionally. So yeah, and I would understand if you're out there and if you're not speaking up about it because it's it makes you afraid in whatever way, then just challenge that, maybe, like, in order to build community. Because it is painful and it is depressing, but like, if you have, I mean, for myself, the few people that I know are active on this, I know that I can that they can have my back if I'm feeling really low. And it's like, build your own community and be kind, and because I think everybody needs it.
Thank you both for these spaces, and I hope to see you in the future. And whenever you want to come to Mexico, here you have a home, and it's almost far from the center of the city, but I think this is a pretty place. This Xochimilco, it means the flower place or something like that. And thank you again, you both.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Este podcast es presentado por A Máximo Volumen. Puedes apoyar este proyecto siguiéndonos en Instagram en @de.vegans. Gracias por escuchar y por compartir.